Roxo Media House.
Here in exchange for an out early in the game, and there's a base hit to center field. One run scores. Being held at third is Maxwell as the throw comes in from center fielder Nathan Humphries. But TCU off to a 1-0 lead on the
Welcome back to another episode here, State of the Frogs, with Coach Kirk Saarloos here at the Lupton Stadium offices. Coach, been a little bit since we've chatted. Thanks for making time here. I know it's another travel day.
Absolutely. Seems like all of our State of the Frogs are on travel days, so it's a tight window, but love the coverage that y'all bring. So,
well, we've lined them up, tried to line them up with those days. I know there's a lot going on here, going down to Waco. We'll talk about that trip coming up. It's been a little bit since we've chatted, so maybe we go back through some of the last handful of weekends. You know, obviously, a tough one at Cincinnati, a good comeback weekend after that, Texas Tech, go down to Austin, drop a series there, and then come back and able to get back in the winning column 2 out of 3 against Kansas State this past weekend. Talk a little bit about, maybe just over the course of those series, been a little bit of trouble on the road. And obviously there's going to be a big test coming up here. Something that you've seen, and what's one of the inconsistent spots that you've seen over the last handful of weeks?
Yeah, it's real interesting. I think, usually pitching and defense, always travels no matter where you're at. And, I think that for the most part, we've gotten off to slow starts. I think back to the Cincinnati weekend where, actually Tolley was kind of doing his thing on Friday night and then kind of ran into some trouble. But then Saturday and Sunday, I think we were down, within the first 3 innings, we were down, multiple runs. And so that's really difficult, especially on the road. You want to be able to get leads early and then try to expand on those leads. And, when you're playing from behind, especially on the road, it's a little bit tougher to come back. So, that's the thing that I've noticed. The big thing is just falling behind early, and we got to be better at that. And I think if we do that, our big thing is race to 5 in terms of our offense is race to 5. We feel real good about our pitching and defense. If we can get to 5 runs from an offensive standpoint, feel good about having an opportunity to win. So, again, going to have to start fast and then finish strong this weekend on the road.
I think going back to even kind of in the middle of that stretch that we were just talking about, and I'm thinking really the Texas series, there was a stretch of 30 some odd innings where runs had only been allowed by the pitching staff in maybe 2 or 3 individual innings. And offensively come back and then obviously Friday night against Kansas State's exactly what you hope for coming out. Offensively, are there specific things that the team's working on situationally? Are there any approaches that are changing?
Yeah, Coach Bruce has done a really good job over the last really 3 weeks, really grinding with our guys in terms of approach, in terms of, if we're not getting the ball at the ballpark like we haven't this year, we have to be able to hit and run, bunt. We got to be able to situational hit. So we've spent a lot of time on that. Previous to the couple practices previous to the Kansas State weekend, it was all about hard and low. We wanted to hit hard and low line drives, and especially with the forecast the way it was going to be for the Kansas State weekend, with the wind really blowing in, that was the most quality at bats that we had probably in a really, really long time, probably all the way back to the beginning of the season, and it was all about low and hard line drives. And I think some of those things, you see some guys starting to kind of pass the baton and do what they're supposed to do, but at the same time not try to do too much. And I think from an offensive standpoint, I thought, 2 out of the 3 games this past weekend were really, really good, more indicative of what we think we can do offensively. So now it's just about continuing to do that. And in all honesty, we have 10 games left. We got to finish really strong with these last 10 and give ourselves an opportunity to be in the Big 12 tournament and also be in the postseason.
You talk about the last 10, and it feels like not exactly the same. It's a little bit of a different path to get there, but same type of situation, generally speaking, that you have to play well down the stretch here to put yourself in the position to do what the team did last year, and obviously what you all want to do now. And we'll get into Baylor specifically coming up this weekend, but are there a couple of key things that you think the focus needs to be on over those 10 to put yourself in the right position for the conference tournament?
Yeah, I think it's I've kind of gone back and forth in terms of hey, do we need to talk about what we need to do as a team to get to where we need to get to?
Right.
Because a lot of times our mantra is we're playing one game at a time.
Right.
So when you're talking about, hey, we need to go, we need to go 7-3 over our last 10, or we need to go 4-2 in our last 6 conference games. you're kind of putting a little bit of the cart before the horse. So it's
Right.
kind of a double-edged sword. You want them to have the understanding of, where we're at and, the desire that we have to have every single game. But I felt like they've had that. So it's not like, hey, all of a sudden, hey, we need to do this to get to where we need to get to. And all of a sudden it's like they now try too hard. The effort has been there. Maybe the execution hasn't. And that's the frustrating part, is that the execution at a high level hasn't been there consistently. But I think the effort and what these guys go and do every single day has been there. In my opinion, though, we have to probably go 7-3 and at least 4-2 in our last 6 conference games to be able to make sure we're in the conference tournament. And then also, it's a weird deal. We're sitting at, I think, 10-14, but our RPI is in the mid-30s.
Right. And
you have 3 road games with Baylor, and then you have a really good West Virginia team that's, I think, in the maybe low 20s RPI-wise. So there's still a lot of opportunities from an RPI standpoint, but we have to get ourselves into the Big 12 tournament.
Right.
And it's us, UCF, and Baylor for the most part. Kind of 2 out of those 3 clubs are going to make it, one's not. And we're playing Baylor this weekend. So there's a lot on the line in terms of this weekend of what we need to do for the conference tournament. But it's really weird. It's like the NCAA tournament is not going to take a team that's 3 or 4 games below 500 in their conference for the most part.
Right.
So, a lot of stuff out in front of us and a lot of opportunities. And I think that's the fun part, is being able to watch our guys go out and be able to seize those opportunities, because I think we are playing a lot better baseball than we had been in the previous probably 2 or 3 weeks.
I think that's definitely agreed. If you've been watching the game, staying with the team. We'll talk a little bit more about the opportunities coming up. We're going to have another student question coming up. I think this one's a good one, so we'll get into that in a minute after a word from our sponsor at the Squire Shop.
Welcome to the Squire Shop.
We are locally owned and operated since 1994.
We specialize in the finest men's clothing that the market has to offer at affordable prices with unbelievable service.
We do custom clothing all the way to more casual, Peter Millar, Johnny O, kind of everything. Well, my dad's the owner, so I've been around retail my whole life. Oh, it's great. I mean, it's the best boss I'll ever have. I know that.
We love our TCU community. They have been so good to us. Come see us today. Go Frogs!
Welcome back here to Lupton Stadium, State of the Frogs. Thank you again to our sponsors at the Squire Shop. And coming up now is our student question, and this will be coming from Cashy.
Yeah, hello, my name is Cashy Crockett. I'm from Monroe, Louisiana. I'm on the track team here at TCU. And Coach Saarloos, I got a question for you. The other day at the game, I saw you leaving out like an Army vehicle. Is that your type of vehicle, or is that what you collect, or is that what you like to drive or anything?
Cashy, great question. Kind of out of nowhere, my brother actually owns the exact same one. It's a 1972 Pinzgauer. My brother owns one back in California. He's like, you have to get one of these. They're super fun to drive around. And so bought it on an auction site called bringatrailer.com. And it was bought it on like a Monday, and it showed up on a Thursday. And it's just for fun. I live a mile away from the baseball field. So basically it's kind of transport a lot of the neighborhood kids around, take them to school, pick them up. It's more for fun than anything else. Really has no rhyme or reason. I wasn't in the Army. No one in my family was in the Army. Just a cool Army vehicle.
And what kind of mileage do you get in the pins?
Not sure. The fuel gauge doesn't work, so I do have a spare 5-gallon tank in the back in case I run out. But my top end speed's about 50 miles an hour. So I put it on the freeway one time, but for the most part, 50 miles an hour is that's the top end speed.
And how long until we see Lane driving around Fort Worth?
Well, I actually asked her. I joked with Emery, my middle daughter, and she said, she's 14. I said, hey, this is going to be your car when you turn 16. And she was embarrassed. No. And then Lane overheard me, and she said, well, then can I have it?
Exactly.
Because, of course, that's Lane's personality.
Exactly.
She's like, I'll dominate that thing and drive it around. The great thing is the anti-theft device that it has, the stick shift. Nobody knows how to drive a stick shift anymore, so, it's if someone can come and figure out how to drive a stick, they can probably steal it.
If you haven't seen it, you'll see it around the field at some point. It certainly is a spectacle to see. So thanks again, Cashy. We'll take another quick break, and then we'll have Luke Boyers on the other side of this commercial.
Energy does everything for us. It's all-encompassing.
We're all benefiting and affected from it.
And it is something that we all need to know about.
It is the glue that holds everything together.
TCU is powering what matters, our future.
We don't just talk about what's needed, we focus on results.
The Ralph Lowe Energy Institute is creating a world where energy is affordable, sustainable, and reliable.
Welcome back into the TCU offices here, State of the Frogs. Another episode. Got a special guest here, senior outfielder, third baseman, Luke Boyers.
That's shortly lived. We're glad that one's over with for now.
It's a little bit closer to the ball, isn't it?
Yeah, the ball's moving too quick for me.
You get,
you
get comfortable out in the outfield, and then they bring you in. I'm with you. I feel you.
There's no variables when the ball's in the air for the most part.
That's right. Well, on that note, so you've turned yourself into quite the outfielder, and obviously, athletic background, playing football in high school. You've been here quite a few years now. You're the old man amongst the team, I imagine. Remember what it was like being one of the few seniors. So how are things feeling right now? Obviously, we're getting into this stretch of the season when it flips to May and things start to get a little bit serious. How are you feeling right now with the way things are going, your season, things like that?
I think it's been really good. We're coming off of a few good weekends. We're starting to put things together. Got a great opportunity in front of us at Baylor. So we're looking forward to it. And school's getting out, so everyone's it's almost like there's a refreshment going around, and it's kind of, things are being different. We're able just to focus on baseball right now.
And talk a little bit about that, because this is, something that fans sometimes maybe don't realize is that baseball really one of the only sports, if not the only sport, where you go into summer and school is out, but we're still playing ball here. Talk a little bit about that. I know the saying that we always used to get was that this is the closest thing to professional baseball that you'll get at this level. So a little bit more time to spend out in the cages, I presume, stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't feel rushed, you don't feel stressed, and so you can kind of take your time with your work. You can get done what you want to get done. You're not on a tight schedule. You're not thinking about school while you're at the baseball field. And while we're here, we try to focus on where our feet are, but sometimes that big test can creep up on your mind. So it's definitely a big sigh of relief to be able to just focus on baseball.
So are you all done with finals now, everything, or is that coming up? Is that next week?
I personally am officially done. Finals are coming up next week for most people, but I'm officially done and graduated.
Congratulations. That is a big weight lifted. Now you really just get to focus on this, and hopefully you're playing for quite some time into the month of June. I know that's always the goal, but yeah, offensively, I want to talk a little bit. Obviously, fans have had a chance to see you over the last 4 years progress. Obviously, got off to a good start in your career, and the way that things have transpired now 4 years later, having a really nice offensive season, putting it together. It's really fun to watch you when you're being aggressive early in counts and taking things off. I know we've on some broadcasts we've come back from commercial break and you're hitting a leadoff homer in the inning and sprinting around the base paths. Is there something to that aggressive approach to you? I see, if I'm looking and watching you from the outside looking in, it feels like you're a lot more comfortable when you're aggressive earlier in counts and really kind of attacking opposing pitchers.
Yeah, 100%. For me, I'm trying to, anything up in the zone, in the strike zone, I'm trying to hammer early. And, in my career in the past, I haven't been the best with 2 strikes, and so I'm not trying to get to 2 strikes. And that's kind of my approach this year is I think I'm a better hitter and can do more damage when I'm aggressive early.
And is there something about the sprinting around the bases, you're just trying to get home? There was one this past weekend. I think you probably had a record time in the conference this year getting around.
I was pretty fired up about that one. They had shifted me, and then I was able to hit a home run, and I was pretty fired up about that.
That's the best way to beat the shift.
Yeah, the best way to beat the shift. And so I was, I wouldn't even say I was thinking about it. I was just fired up and ready to get back to the dugout to greet the guys.
So awesome. Well, other side of the ball, defensively, I think, something that Chuck and I have commented on quite a bit is how comfortable you look, especially in right field playing here. Is that a position that you played in high school? I assume a lot of guys, a lot of teams like this in Power 5, everybody was a center fielder, and you have to learn in a little bit different position. Talk a little bit about the growth that you feel like you've had in the outfield, because I feel like it's looked really second nature. You're making plays over the shoulder, back on the run, and stuff like that.
So I started off, I was a center fielder in high school, like most, and then when I came here, I played kind of all over, primarily the corner positions, and I've played right most of my career. Last year I played a little bit of left, and so I'm super comfortable with it. And the other thing too is, I talked to our outfield coach, Coach DeLore, and he wants me to be more aggressive, and I completely agree. So I'm just trying to have fun with it and and be as relaxed as I can. And I really take pride in my defense because I feel like that's something I can, be a game changer in every day rather than at the plate. There's highs and lows. So I really take pride in defense.
No, and it evidently shows. So yeah, I know you guys got to get going here in a little bit, but last question, I have to talk about it. Put your scout hat on now. Scouting report on Evan Skoug's batting practice. What do you got?
Be on time because he throws. Be on time to the heater because he's gonna bring it.
Evan's throwing gas during batting practice every day. I always give him a hard time about it, but I always wonder what it was like to hit off of a guy I played with for 3 years. So be on time. That's good advice from Luke Boyers.
Yep.
So, well, thank you again, Luke, for joining us. Good luck this weekend and the rest of the way coming down. It's going to be fun to watch you guys. I know we're getting into that crunch time part of the season. We'll be right back after another short break.
We wouldn't be able to do the things we were able to do this year without the Flying T Club. So we got to continue to get people involved. It's more important right now than it's ever been.
Flying T is special. It's the best thing that I've encountered in college. It allows us to be able to offset a lot of the costs that our scholarships aren't able to cover. If people like winning, invest in the Flying T Club and NIL.
This is really great for athletes and just for future students who want to come here and be a part of something special, man. I just think it's great.
It just means a lot to us players to see all the support, and it's huge.
Welcome back one last time here into Lupton Stadium, State of the Frogs, with Coach Kirk Saarloos. Coach got a chance to talk to Luke Boyers. It seems like he's swinging the bat really well right now. Fun to watch him, a senior, kind of coming into his own here in this last go-around. So
yeah, for sure. It's always nice. Luke has been here, 4 years, and for him to be able to, it always hasn't been easy, just like for anybody. Baseball's tough, especially hitting, as you well know. Yeah. But Luke, I think the cool thing is watching him flourish, in his last year and be able to be a guy that has been playing a great right field, and then been hitting well from both sides of the plate. So really fun to see and much needed.
No, absolutely. And you look at somebody like Luke, but then you also combine it with the guys that are back from last year's team. How important is their leadership going to be, knowing what we've just talked about, if it's 7-3 down the stretch, if it's 4-2 in conference, whatever it may be, of keeping the team in the right direction and knowing that they've had the experience of going on a run like this to get you where you want to go?
Yeah, I think it always comes down to leadership and veteran leadership. And, I think that's what, a lot of the younger players look to, just like last year and now this year's club. And, you have guys like Peyton Chatinier that went through it at Ole Miss that basically were sitting exactly what they were sitting like a couple years ago when they won the national championship, and then, the Curtis Burns and the Boyers of being able to, they had a lot of, they went to the World Series last year, but there was some times, in their earlier parts of their career as well, trying to figure things out. So I think there's a lot of knowledge that is passed down from those older players that have kind of been in the trenches and have gone through this multiple years. And so, I think a lot of our players do lean on those older guys just because, it's always a lot easier when it's peer-led as opposed to always, the coach is kind of trying to entice it. It's great when it comes from a guy like Curtis Byrne and Luke Boyers, those guys that, have a lot of stock in the program, a lot of skins on the wall.
Yeah, it always seems to resonate a little bit more, especially with guys that haven't been in that in that situation before. So let's talk a little bit about Baylor coming up this weekend. You guys will head down 35 here in a little bit this afternoon. This is a Baylor team, started off the season in a tough spot. They've been playing some better baseball over the stretch. You talked about they're right ahead of you all in the standings right now. It's about a half game. So it's going to come down to really this weekend and how you all finish out. You talk a little bit about this Baylor team, what's going to be kind of the areas of emphasis that you all see going forward.
Yeah, I think, they have a lot of left-handed hitters. They have some versatility. They have some guys that can run the bases a little bit. But ultimately, it's a scrappy club. Mitch Thompson does a good job, their head coach, who was the former head coach at McLennan Junior College, who won a national championship. He knows how to coach baseball. He was there in the heyday when Baylor was rolling, and he was a recruiting coordinator. So it's not too long until Baylor gets rolling again. And I think, our big thing is not so much about what they're going to do. It's about what we're going to do, like it always is. But they have two good veteran right-handed pitchers that they'll start on Friday and then on Saturday. So guys that have pitched in a lot of Big 12 games. And then offensively, they're going to do a lot of different things, and they're kind of like us. They're going to figure out I think they have, you know, they're not a home run hitting team either. They might have one more home run. I think they have 29. We have 28. So it's, you know, now saying that, it's probably going to be a bunch of home runs this weekend. But, you know, it's going to be pitching, it's going to be defense, and then it's going to be timely hitting. And I think that's both for Baylor and for us. And so I expect a really good weekend. But I think who comes out of this series winning it takes a really big advantage in terms of getting that last spot, just because of, you know, you go 2-1, really you go 3-1 because of the tiebreaker.
Yeah, and the potential advantage is that, and obviously you saw this last year, but you start to play these playoff type atmospheres already, right? It's you have to win, have to play well, get you into that mode at the right time. So we'll be on the lookout for that, Coach. Good luck this weekend. Safe travels, and we'll see you down there, of course.
Thanks, Connor.
But thanks as always to you all for checking in and listening. Thanks again to our sponsors at the Squire Shop. This has been another episode of State of the Frogs. Coach Kirk Saarloos.
Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.
Roxo Media House.